Hello there! Welcome to this episode of Force Ghost Conversations. This is your host, Anthony King, and this week I'm going to take a deep dive into the Mandalorian Season 3 episode titled The Mines of Mandalore. Before we get started, I'm inviting you to join the conversation with us. We can be found on Twitter and Hive at Force Ghost Pod. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok just by searching Force Ghost Conversations. Also, please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your listening site of choice. Plus, Force Ghost Conversations is live on Patreon. If you're a fan of the podcast and would like to consider pledging your support, there will be a link in the episode description for you to check out the various tiers offered. Finally, please be sure to check out our TeePublic store to buy some Force Ghost Conversations merchandise. And without further ado, it is time to gather around the campfire for some Force Ghost Conversations. Okay, everybody, thrilled to be back with you for another installment of the podcast known as Force Ghost Conversations. As always, this is your host, Anthony King, and we are going to talk all about The Mandalorian, Episode 2 of Season 3, The Mines of Mandalore. And wow, I am thrilled to just get into the nitty-gritty of this episode with you all. And before we do that, though, we've got a lot of news to cover in the Star Wars Lucasfilm galaxy of it all. And to start, I want to announce the big, or comment on the big announcement, the book announcement that came out earlier this week, which is that we're finally getting confirmed that a Return of the Jedi from a Certain Point of View book is coming out, I believe, don't quote me, September 5th. September 5th, so you can pre-order it now. And this is the third in a series of trilogy of anthologies that the Lucasfilm Publishing has done over the last couple of years here, starting with A New Hope from a Certain Point of View, of course, with The Empire Strikes Back, a certain point of view, and finally concluding the original trilogy of stories with Return of the Jedi, which will come out this September in honor of the 40th anniversary. So, of course, if you're aware of that, you know the drill when it comes to these anthology stories. But for those that may not be aware, this is a great book about 40 different stories going across the background characters, or getting more into the heads of characters that are in the Return of the Jedi film. So I know there's been a lot of juicy canon that has come out from these not these Return of the Jedi books specifically, but from a certain point of view books. And of course, they get 40 different authors, 40 storytellers to explore the Return of the Jedi through the various eyes of supporting characters, heroes, villains, droids, aliens, and creatures. Now, to give you a sense of what this book is about, right? Here's some of the stories that we know of so far from the 40 being offered here. So Olivia Blake is going to give us a chilling glimpse into the mind of Emperor Palpatine. Saladin Ahmed recounts the tragic history of the Rancor Keeper. That'll be fun. Charlie Jane Anders explores the life and times of the Sarlacc. Wow, that'll be fun. Fran Wilde reveals Mon Mothma's secret mission to save the Rebel Alliance. Didn't know that one. Mary Kenny chronicles Wicket the Ewok's quest for one quiet day on the forest moon of Endor. I hope he gets it. And Anakin Skywalker becomes one with the Force in a gripping tale by Mike Chen. Wow, really cannot wait for that one. As you know, Anakin is my favorite character in the Star Wars saga, and his redemption is something that is one of the most powerful things to me across the story of Star Wars. So him becoming a Force Ghost, of course, is partially why we are called Force Ghost Conversations here on this podcast. So I'm definitely going to be checking out that story before you know it, so that I know the full story and learn about how he becomes a Force Ghost. I mean, that's a big deal for canon right there. So there's going to be a lot of different stories and tales from other authors, and I'm going to run through the list right here. So bear with me because it's lengthy. Tom Engelberger, Kristen Baver, Akemi Dawn Bowman, Emma Mika Candon, Olivia Chada, Gloria Chow, Adam Christopher, Paul Crilly, Amal Imotar, M.K. England, Jason Fry, Adam Lance Garcia, Lamar Giles, Max Gladstone, Thea Guenzon, Ali Hazelwood, Patricia A. Jackson, Alex Jennings, Jarrett Kroseshka, I hope I got that right, Sarah Kuhn, Danny Lohr, Sarah Glenn Marsh, Kwame Mbalia, Marike Nijkamp, Daniel Page, Laura Poe, Kay Arsenal Rivera, Dana Schwartz, Tara Sim, Phil Shostak, Suzanne Walker, Hannah Witten, Sean Williams, and Alyssa Wong. Whew! Say all that 5 times fast. I mean, that's a great group of authors. Of course, some first timers into the Star Wars galaxy, some returning friends, of course. So definitely be sure to pick up this book. Pre-orders are available now if you want to get some. And also be sure to check out the other From a Certain Point of View books that came out preceding. So A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, as they are really something special. So don't miss out on those for your collection for sure. Also, we got some wonderful, stunning, if you will, badge art for Star Wars Celebration Europe, right? We're less than a month out at this point from Star Wars Celebration Europe. I hope you checked out our recent episode all about a London 101 with Mercedes Gleason of the Chat Disney podcast. It was just a few episodes ago, so be sure to check out that podcast if you are heading to the convention and want some tips and tricks on how best to make your experience successful. But the badge art was released, and of course, it is stunning. It is celebratory. It just has this, I don't know if you, maybe I'm putting words out into the universe, but it feels very Return of the Jedi. It has that spirit of it in there. There's a lot of vibrant colors. It's got 80s vibes to it. Of course, a lot of the artwork is from things that are probably going to be talked about in some way or celebrated in many degrees, right? There's a lot of Mandalorian characters, some Book of Boba Fett returning characters. Of course, our main heroes from the original trilogy, Luke, Leia, and Han, sporting their Return of the Jedi outfits, of course. Andor, we got some Ahsoka characters and Rebels friends, so Ahsoka and Chopper. Omega representing the Bad Batch. Of course, recent shows, Obi-Wan Kenobi is there, so Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen's portrayal of Darth Vader is there too. Moses Ingram, Blade Rava. Great stuff here, and of course, maybe a little bit of a tease for perhaps for a Rey and a Finn on there. Maybe looking into something there, but who knows? It'll be very, very cool to see those characters come back, maybe in a future project. So who knows? But be sure to check out this artwork on StarWars.com. It's also circulating on the social media channels, so don't miss out on all of that. It was done by Alice X Chang. So all the credit goes out to them, and it is just really wonderful work. So looking forward to seeing all those badges out on the show floor if you're attending Celebration, and I will be watching the live stream, which was announced this week too, that it's going to happen. Now, we don't know for sure if it's going to be all the panels or if it's going to be what they did last Celebration at Anaheim, where they didn't portray or showcase the main panels each day. They showed a couple highlight panels over the course of the weekend, did a lot of interviews on the show Celebration stage, and they also went around the show floor talking to the various vendors, etc. So we don't know if it's going to be full on, big panels of the day or whatnot, or if they're just going to do the other stuff. But for those of us at home who are on CouchCon, who will not be attending the celebration, so like myself, this will be a great time. I'm glad that we're at least getting something, right? And it's going to be a fun time one way or the other for us to celebrate Star Wars. And I'm working on some stuff behind the scenes here, folks, to really celebrate for us that aren't able to be there. So look for more information on that in the coming weeks here then. So finally, I did want to highlight the big panels that were announced this week. In addition to that, it'll be showcased live, right? There will be colorful commentary, etc., from our wonderful friends on the live show stage. But for those that are in person, you will probably have a chance to see some of the big panels that are going to be on the celebration stage. So, of course, this is going to kick off Friday, April 7th, with the Lucasfilm Studio Showcase. I was fortunate enough to go to this panel to win the lottery and be at this panel in Anaheim, where John Williams came out on stage, Harrison Ford was out on stage, showcasing the upcoming Indiana Jones film. We had a little bit of stuff from all the various things going on in the Lucasfilm pipeline. So we got to see the first look trailers for Andor. We got to see Hayden Christensen, Ewan McGregor come out for Obi-Wan. Of course, we got invited back for their premiere event of the first 2 episodes of Kenobi. And of course, the Willow trailer premiered there, and we got a first look at the Mandalorian season 3 in that convention. So this is definitely a great chance for Lucasfilm to really showcase all that is coming up this year. So of course, the Mandalorian, I think Andor will get a little bit of some love here, probably Indiana Jones as well. Ahsoka will definitely have its day in the sun a little bit here. I know it's got its own panel coming up later. But you gotta imagine Skeleton Crew, perhaps even a Willow season 2. This is why it's great that it's called a Lucasfilm Studio Showcase, so that they aren't just tied into one specific Star Wars topic in this convention, or in this panel, I should say. So that'll really kick off the Friday festivities and give Celebration that oomph, that vibe, that tenor going throughout the rest of the convention. So, of course, later that day, there'll be London Calling, what they're calling it, designing Star Wars productions in the UK, since Star Wars has a ripe history of production work in the United Kingdom, going all the way back to A New Hope. There's going to be a panel on the making of Andor Season 1, which will be great. Looks like executive producers Tony Gilroy and Diego Luna, as well as others, will be there. On Saturday, there will be an Ahsoka panel featuring Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, and featuring a special first look at the upcoming series, whenever that is coming out. There's going to be a concept artist of ILM bringing worlds to life panel. There's going to be, of course, a High Republic panel, probably giving some more insights onto Phase 2 and what's to come in Phase 3 upcoming. Of course, 40 years Return of the Jedi. That's all going to happen on Friday. That's incredible, too. Don't want to miss out on that one, because I'm sure a lot of great fans and fan favorites will be coming back to that one. It's going to be a cosplay workshop, Young Jedi Adventures screenings. Of course, that comes out on May 4th. So definitely don't want to miss out on that one. For those of you that are collectors, Hasbro, Star Wars, and Indiana Jones panel will be at Celebration. A Creature Cantina featuring Neil Scanlon and the wonderful work that he's done in his UK production work over there. Of course, a 15-year anniversary panel for the Clone Wars. Who could forget about all that? Sunday is going to be a Villains of the Sequel Trilogy panel on the main Celebration stage, featuring some great actors. Amy Ratcliffe will be sitting down with Ian McDiarmid, Andy Serkis, and Gwendolyn Christie as they talk about how they've impacted the Star Wars galaxy as villains. There's going to be visual effects of Andor, Behind the Magic, hyperspace stories about Dark Horse Comics coming back to the Star Wars fold, a reflection on Obi-Wan Kenobi back on the Celebration stage, featuring all of the wonderful actors again for Obi-Wan Kenobi: Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen, Indira Varma, and Vivian Lyra Blair, who will all also be getting autographs and photograph opportunities if you want to purchase those when you're at Celebration. Going to be, of course, cosplay competitions, Funko panels, talking about the Disney parks, of course. It's going to be on the Celebration stage. They're going to talk about some of the behind-the-scenes details about Galaxy's Edge and the Galactic Star Cruiser, which I was able to go to that panel at Anaheim as well, and that's where they announced that The Mandalorian, Grogu, Book of Boba Fett, and Fennec Shand would also be in the Disney parks. So that's great. Of course, Lucasfilm Publishing panels. The Bad Batch is getting its own panel on Monday, April 10th, to kind of close out Celebration. Marvel Comics presents Star Wars, so get a look at some of the upcoming comic books in a galaxy far, far away. Star Wars Vision Season 2, or Volume 2 as they're calling it, it's going to get its own panel on the Celebration stage. and many, many more things. Doug Chang, the closing ceremony, where we'll probably find out where the next celebration will take place in 2025. Fingers crossed Orlando's on that list. And that is really it. So that's really the main big panels, right? The ones that are going to be on the celebration stage, the Twin Sun stage, etc. But of course, there's going to be a lot more panels for those of you at home. So a lot of the fan-driven panels, the HoloNet news, other stages, podcast stages, they're going to be on some of the smaller stages that will take place throughout the convention center. And of course, the show floor will be a wild endeavor too. So if you want, head to StarWarsCelebration.com, where you can see a full list of all the different panels that'll be taking place over the course of the weekend, Friday through Monday. And of course, I will be taking off work for those couple of days, so I will be watching along at home, keeping up with all the news coming out, and doing my best to report on everything that is going on in Celebration Land. So get ready for all of that, folks. Celebration is just around the corner, and guess what? We're still here to talk about the Mandalorian, the Mines of Mandalore. So we're going to be right back after this very short break to get into our deep dive discussion on all things episode 2 of season 3 of The Mandalorian, the Mines of Mandalore. We'll be right back, folks. Okay, everyone, we are back, and it is time to get into The Mandalorian, the Mines of Mandalore. Very excited to dive into this episode because, it's a lot of action. It's very action paced. It's very action heavy. It's almost like I wish they'd release both at the same time, episode 1 and 2, because I feel like they go hand in hand with each other very well. But we got it week to week here, which is fine. I will take it. So it's definitely a very action heavy episode, but I think that there is a lot to talk about, to dive into, which is really how I'm structuring this episode here. You may recall that I did an episode, I believe, for perhaps it was Obi-Wan Kenobi, maybe Andor. I can't remember off the top of my head right now, where I didn't actually do full detailed notes like I usually do, where I write out a script basically. This and frankly, I'll be a bit transparent here, is because time kind of caught up to me here. I'm fully in grad school. I do full-time work. So I've only been able to watch the episode twice. And because of things that are going on, such as I'm a baseball fan. The World Baseball Classic is going on now. I really want to soak that up as much as I can. The Oscars are this weekend as I'm recording this. And I have 2 films to go in order to catch up on all the Best Picture nominees. So I'm a little strapped for time when it comes to all the things I can put all of my efforts into at this point. A new Scream film is coming out this week, and I want to desperately see before I get spoiled online to stuff. All that compiles into, why I made the choice to kind of just freeball some ideas and notes about what I'm talking about here for the Mines of Mandalore. But I do have 5 big talking points here that I wanted to bring up over the course of the episode that stuck out to me as I was having my 2 watches. And I hope that, let's continue the conversation. You can hit us up on all the social media channels to talk about other things that maybe I missed, or maybe you want to talk about further, something that stood out to you, that you found fun, interesting, attractive, etc. This is the place to have these conversations, and I hope that you feel confident and comfortable enough to reach out to our social media channels and look forward to having those conversations with you all. I mean, that's the point of this podcast. It's supposed to be fun and engaging, etc. So spoiler alert for The Mines of Mandalore, Season 3, Episode 2 of The Mandalorian. If you haven't watched it yet, be sure to go watch on Disney Plus right now and come right back to this episode at this point in time. You have been forewarned. Everything after this point is fair game. And the first note that I really had here that I wanted to talk about with you all, and apologies if you hear some background noise, as Mrs. Force Cook's Conversations is prepping dinner tonight, so hopefully it's not too much of a nuisance for you all. I am in full disclosure of behind the scenes, pulling back the curtain, if you will. I am in our closet recording this right now, so I hope that is not too much of a distraction for you all, and apologies if it is. I will do my best to drown out some of the sound in the editing process, but I can only do so much with my limited setup that I have right now. So we are going to do our best with this all. But really, the first talking point that I wanted to bring up is all about the Bo-Katan of this episode, right? Is this about making a believer out of Bo-Katan? Clearly, in the first episode of season 3, she is defeated. She is jaded. She is on the throne that it seems like an ancestral homeland throne, if you will. She's done. Just putting it plainly there. She doesn't want anything to do with Mandalore. She's blaming everything, the factions, what have you. She doesn't have the Darksaber. She didn't win it all in ritual combat, etc. Whatever happens, or whatever she's blaming it on, right? She's just not seeing another avenue for coexisting. And frankly, the one thing that I noticed from this episode is perhaps is coexisting possible for the various factions of Mandalore? Is there a way for them to reunite without these potential systems in place? The dogma. Does one side have to be right? Does one side have to be defeated in order to uh, achieve rule? Din isn't malicious when it comes to her viewpoint at this point in his trajectory. He just wants to feel like he's a member of his clan again. He just wants to go to Mandalore, bathe in the living waters underneath the mines. And frankly, I don't know what's next for him after that. Call it a day? Who knows? But you see her just kind of boo-hooing it the entire way. Mandalore is dead. You ruined it. Everything's ruined. She's lost a purpose in many regards. But is there a way to make a believer out of her? And I got that sense at the end right there when she saves Din Djarin from that eye spider thing, whatever you want to call it. That was a funky creature design. I'll get to creatures in a second. But she takes him down to the mines of Mandalore, where the living waters, if you will, too, where she went through all these pomp and circumstance situations as a child, as a princess of Mandalore, part of the royal family, where she was paraded around in these, rituals that went beyond what conventional thought and ideology for Sundari culture and Mandalorian culture on the main planet was believing at that time, which is powerful because, of course, she points out the plaque. It seems very much like a tourist attraction in a way, and it's lost that luster that she's really jaded to this concept. She's like, yeah, I'll take you down there. I'll show it to you. It's really nothing special. But to Din Djarin, this is everything. That is a special thing for him. This is an important ritual for him. And maybe it was not because she didn't believe in the stories, the legends. Maybe she didn't want to believe in the legends and the fairy tales. Maybe she wanted to be jaded. I think we can all probably think of our own instances in life, whether it be personal, familial, national, even local. There are myths, fables, legends that we boo-hoo. We put down. We don't believe. We strike down. We maybe even condemn others for believing in it. And there are a variety of reasons for that, but I can certainly relate to a Bo-Katan here being like, why do you want to do that? Like, I'll take you there. It's nothing special. And then to the person there, it means the absolute world to them. You can see it on Din Djarin. The music swells at that point. He's ready to go in there and face and do what he needs to do in order to become a member of his clan again. To feel welcome in his community once more. And perhaps in this moment, Bo-Katan sees something in herself that in Din Djarin that she wishes she'd always seen in herself, which I think is an important, powerful reflection to make for ourselves as we go across the world, right? I think there's a lot of times where people condemn others for beliefs that they have. And this is an instance where perhaps we could learn how to coexist by not putting down others for their ideology, for their beliefs necessarily. And especially when it's not harmful to others. That's a different story all in its own right. But if you're not harming other people and you're not being malicious, you're just being kind and friendly, right? Din Djarin's almost killing her with kindness in a way. When she wants to have this, it seems like conflict between the two of them, and he's like, "No, I don't care. I just want to. I don't care. I don't care about the dark saber. I don't care about all this. I just kind of want to be my own person. I want to be a part of my clan. This is important to me. They gave me a home. They treated me right. I felt safe and comfortable with them." Versus she has these grand ideas of, I'm going to rule Mandalore. I need this dark saber in order to reunite the clans and etc. But maybe there's something more. Maybe she sees this in this moment. Maybe she's connecting to this ideology, this story a bit more, and perhaps there is a way to coexist by. Well, not. I'm trying to find the right words here to craft this thought here that I have, where it's like it's being empathetic and sympathetic towards others, listening to them, and not putting down their viewpoints. Perhaps maybe that is the way to achieving coexisting, and that's an important concept that I think about here. And it's appropriate here that we move to my other topic here that I wanted to bring about, which is the significance of the mythosaur and it moving forward. Right? Maybe this is a way for it to coexist. Of course, we learn in the episode about Mandalore the Great, how they tamed the beast, the first Mandalore, and that's where they got the symbol of the mythosaur being the signet of all of Mandalore, etc. We know it has a long history in Star Wars itself, going all the way back to, I believe, the holiday special with Boba Fett and all that. And now that we know for sure that there is a mythosaur living in the living waters, I mean, that was kind of the running gag of it all. Is that this is a it was thought thousands of years ago that this was a place where the mythosaur called home, and it was tamed. And that's how they reunited the first Mandalorians together. Long story, long fable, right? Passed down from generation to generation, lost its luster, etc. And now it's kind of proven fact. Not necessarily in a way, but the fact that there is a mythosaur down there, it's a real being, it's a real thing that exists. That'd be wild to comprehend over the course of time, right? But to a degree, it puts some credence into the story. It certainly, I think, adds to her becoming a believer here. And I'm interested to see what it'll take in episode 3 and beyond, what that does to her, what it does to her arc, what it means for her and Din Djarin. Does she jump right back into the water and try and tame it, quote unquote, and then use that story as the means by which she should be the rightful ruler of Mandalore? Is that how she would reunite the clans? Is that the means by which she gets what she wants here at the end of the day? I don't know. I think that'd be a very powerful concept, and I'm hoping that it's perhaps how or where they move forward to here in episode 3. So that's a big point here, big 2 points here that I wanted to bring up here. Next, I wanted to talk about R5D4. Of course, the droid most affectionately known as the one that was the bad motivator from A New Hope that was going to be purchased by the Lars family. Uncle Owen purchased him from the Jawas, or them, I should say. And of course, the motivator went out, and then they purchased R2D2 instead at C3PO's request, suggestion, what have you. And of course, the original trilogy goes off as it does. But we see a little bit of R5D4 in Attack of the Clones. Of course, he's in A New Hope, and he's been all around this Mandoverse so far. And he, of course, ends up at the garage, if you will, of Peli Moto. And at the suggestion of Peli, she's like, "This is a great astromech. You can handle it." He's meant for adventure and all that stuff. And he was so timid in a way. For a droid to be timid, I thought they did a great job putting that together and showcasing that on screen. My point here is the bravery of R5D4. I love seeing the bravery of this character going off into this unknown planet, perhaps being off on a world for the first time, as far as I understand, out into the brand new world with this new group, right? It seemed like as best as they could, they animated emotions onto this droid. So whoever the VFX team, if it was a real R5D4 prop or whatever that they remote controlled, if there was someone actually in the suit, I don't know. But the work that they did there in order to do that, and for him to go out and to collect these samples, work with Grogu too in order to save Din Djarin at the end, knowing what planet to go to, the communication that they had non-verbally with each other was really great. Loved it all, and maybe there's something we can all learn from R5 in our own lives as well, right? Taking that step forward, being not being afraid so much, taking fear in stride. These are important themes that, of course, Star Wars teaches all of us each and every day that we should try our best to implement. I know it's tough. I personally could look to bring that into my own fold a bit more, a bit better, but we are all trying our best here. And of course, R5D4 is taken down by a couple creatures. They're called Alamites. Loved it. It was Ray Harryhausen-esque creatures. Of course, the Seven Seas of Sinbad is a major inspiration for ILM, going back to its roots. Loved seeing the mythosaur. They did a wonderful job crafting that creature into live action. And of course, that eye spider thing. What was the deal with that? I mean, golly gee, just it was just such a big monster, and then it was not a big monster. It became like this little like Jekyll creature thing, and then it was just an eye on this little like almost Moustroid-esque little size thing. Which what in the world are we doing here? What is post purge Mandalore? Who are these things that are thriving and surviving? No wonder they had domes around their cities of Sandari and other major cities in Mandalore culture to keep out these Alamites. I mean, golly, they probably were. And then no wonder they had the armor too. They needed the armor of the Beskar steel in order to protect themselves from these incredible monsters that were around them. So, wonder. I imagine the creature department had a hand in this, but um, it was great seeing all those brought into the fold and into the mix. I thought that was neat additions to Star Wars canon, of course, and especially the Mythosaur, which you've already talked about. Finally, the last note that I wanted to highlight from this episode that stood out to me is that Grogu is growing up. From the beginning of the episode where he jumps into Pelimoto's lap, he's a happy boy. He's excited. He's ready to rock. He's thrilled that he's with Dad again, Din Djarin, of course, and we're seeing him take on some maturity, some ownership, being a leader. He saw that his dad was in peril, and he said, "Go to Bo-Katan, get help," and he knew exactly what that meant. Their communication was on point, if you will. It was very powerful that he just jumped right into his little ball cube and found himself all the way going back to the N1 Starfighter, communicating that to R5 where they needed to go, pushing that Alamite out of the way, using the Force to do so, going to Bo-Katan, and then being able to non-verbally communicate with her as well as to they what they needed from her. Right? It was help. Come help. I'm just a little guy. I'm still learning in the Force, but it just goes to show that we can all be heroes no matter what, right? If maybe we were not able to do the task needed before us in order to achieve the ultimate end goal, but there's no harm in helping others. That can be something, a heroic act in its own right. He went straight to Bo-Katan, didn't dawdle around, knew exactly what the play call is, knew the urgency too. There's a lot of urgency in Grogu in this moment in time, and of course he comes back and helps to save his dad with Bo-Katan's help, and he's witness to this amazing ritual that they see here of them being saved and bathing in the living waters underneath the mines of Mandalore. This is powerful, and I'm hoping to see that Grogu continues to take ownership of this as he goes further in his own journey, and as we, as the audience, get to watch it. Because, golly, wow, it was so adorable seeing his little ears flopping all around, seeing him in his ball like that. I've seen the TikTok online where they added the "I Need a Hero" song from Footloose, and did it at the same time as him rushing off to go see Bo-Katan. I loved it. I'm here for it. That's a lot of fun. But really, that was all that I had for this episode, folks. It was very action heavy. Bo-Katan, Katie Sackhoff did an excellent job putting the action sequences together. I love the canon that we got for Mandalore. Seeing it for the first time in live action, um, seeing Sundari, the capital city, the Civic Center, all these things that we've seen in Star Wars animation, of course, before, and diving into a bit more of the world building of it all, seeing the mines itself, the living waters, the mythosaur, these things that have been a part of Star Wars lore for so long that are now codified in a live action sense. It's really powerful, and I'm glad that I was able to talk about some of these great things with you all along here on Force Ghost Conversations. And of course, we'll be back on Wednesday with another episode talking about that incredible Bad Batch episode this week with Mrs. Force Ghost Conversations. So you don't want to miss out on all that. Be sure to rate, subscribe, review the podcast so we continue to grow the seats around the proverbial campfire that is Force Ghost Conversations. And now I really want to invite you all to communicate with us about what you thought about the episode. Come hit us up on all the social media channels, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Hive, YouTube. We're available on all of it, and we'd love to hear about your thoughts on the Mines of Mandalore. What are you thinking about season 3 thus far? Do you think that there is any connection between Bo-Katan and the Mythosaur and Din Djarin? What is this triangle here? What is going to happen in episode 3 and beyond? I don't have answers to these things right now, but I can definitely assure you that I am looking forward to getting those answers very, very, very soon here. Some final plugs before we get out here for the day. If you feel so inclined and you're liking what you hear on Force Ghost Conversations, you can get more content on our Patreon page. Just subscribe for as little as $1 a month. We have 4 different tiers ranging from $1 to $10. Where you can check out the various tiers offered and the goodies that are associated with it. Sometimes you can have questions answered on the show. Sometimes you can get your name read. So there's bonus episodes going to be available on Patreon if you subscribe at the certain level. I believe that's the $5 level a month. You get some more episodes a month of this podcast where I'm able to dive into some of the nitty gritty things that I want to that we haven't been able to discuss thus far. I'm looking at you, Star Wars Visions and Tales of the Jedi and the Obi-Wan Kenobi documentary, as well as some other things that I want to do, some more deep dive stuff, some like the Patience of Qui-Gon episode that I did earlier on in the run of Force Ghost Conversations. We're certainly spoiled for comfort here on the Star Wars podcast feeds lately, where we have multiple shows going on at the same time. Of course, we did Willow content as well, and with Indiana Jones coming up soon, we're not missing any meals. If you catch my meaning here, we're doing multiple episodes a week at this point until we're caught up with all the great stuff that's going on in the Star Wars and Lucasfilm galaxy. That really check us out on our Patreon page if you want to get some more in-depth conversation and details, and also to help foster a community over there as well. So I invite you all to check that out. Again, if you're loving the podcast in other ways too, and you feel so inclined, be sure to check out our TeePublic store so you can check out the various merchandise that we have offered there. Of course, all of our major logos are on that site. So the Star Wars inspired logo, the Willow inspired logo, Indiana Jones, etc. And with Celebration coming up, you may want to purchase that stuff now if you want to sport some Force Ghost Conversations merchandise on the show floor. So with that, everybody, that is all that I had for this week's episode. Very action-packed, a lot of news stuff, a lot of Mandalorian stuff as well. And we'll be back on Wednesday with Mrs. Force Ghost Conversations to talk about The Outpost, the brand new episode from the Bad Batch. So look for that in your feeds very soon. Until then, may the Force be with you. Take care.